You know, Levy, they say not all draws are made equal, and what we just saw right now happen was definitely one of those that gets you excited.
Okay, London. Yes, Alireza's been Londoning it up, and Magnus says, your London, my London. The best response to a London is to play a London. Everybody in the audience, there's your lesson.
Wrong city, Levy. Someone tell them we're in Paris right now.
Yeah, well, I don't think we're getting a French defense anytime soon. That's desperate times call for desperate measures. Alireza Firouzja attacking Magnus Carlsen's pawn with his queen. Magnus giving it away, and then the entire left side of the board might fall apart, but actually it's uncapturable, which is sort of fascinating.
You'd have taken that pawn. It allows a lot of the rook sliding over, the b2 pawn being soft as well. And it looks like both players know exactly what they're doing right now. The knight does jump. Now there's no queen takes pawn. The bishop is being hit as well. Is Alireza ready to give up the bishop pair? He says no, falls back.
There you go. You want to win the Esports World Cup, just learn the London. That's the lesson. Alireza's played this to perfection. Offers it, and we have Magnus here defending with the trade of the dark squared bishops. Alireza's going to castle or develop his knight, also fine. I actually like White's position a lot. Whenever there's a knight on a non-standard square, as we see in Magnus's position over there on the left side, it can be a target, Tanya. That's not really where knights are supposed to stand.
Completely agree, because the a-pawn is also ready to go up the board and dislodge that piece as well. And I'll just point out about the London. Where are those days? Gone are those days when London was considered this solid opening. You know, you could sit back, play positional strategic fight. It just feels like full dogfight whenever we see a London and H-line already open. Well, a castle now played, but always watch out for the black queen and knight attacking the H-file once you go into this structure. You know, London's become really combative, Levy.
Absolutely. Having said that, this one is likely not to end in a checkmate, but a more grindy type of game. But, I mean, I still have to say, everything on the board looks normal, except the knight on the left side on Magnus square b6. Everything looks correct. You gave your king a little bit of space. Your knight and bishop fight for the center. White has certain advantages here, having more center pawns, which makes his position more mobile, right? He has much more progress to be made. This is Alireza's game. I really like, he just has to develop the left side of the board, the queen side, bring his rooks to the middle, maybe push his a-pawn. Magnus is defending here, Tanya. This structure resembles like a Karl Khan or a Scandinavian defense, but overall, I really like the chances here for White.
And just to your point, the knight advances to a square where it's currently unchallenged. It's also vacating the square for the bishop to land on, taking care of any ideas that Magnus might have had of knight g4, any attack, potential attack on the right flank. He also improves the position of his rook. The bishop gets to the square. And now again, that a4, a5 that you keep highlighting with the c-pawn up the board, you can't even stop that advance.
Absolutely. Which is why Alireza is now faced with this decision of taking the knight or not. He does. And now, where do you go from here?
I want to point out that in these positions, we see the bar, it does give White an advantage, and it's more long-term. Imagine with the bishop as it's placed, eventually the White b-pawn going up the board, a minority attack once the queen is out of the way. You've got ideas like b4, b5. That bishop on f3, it's going to become a sniper once you're able to get to the c6 pawn. And I think it's on Alireza's radar. Well, he starts with the a-pawn. He wants to push that knight back.
This is quite unpleasant because Magnus can't mirror him with an a-pawn. Right? He can't play a5 himself. But he follows the age-old wisdom. When attacked on the side, strike in the center.
He does it, and he does it fast. And now Alireza has to make a decision. There are two attackers on the d4 spot, only one defender. Does Alireza bring his rook to the center of the board? Does he capture, or does he even push that pawn? d5.
All look pretty good. All look pretty good.
I would be very tempted to push d5. You know, I've got enough defensive resources to make that pawn going. Again, the bishop needs to be activated, the bishop on f3. So I'm looking for ways to open up that diagonal to get to that c6 pawn. And you look at Magnus, you just know that he's not feeling well.
Well, it's the best position he's had all day.
True that. You know, he mentioned it after winning his quarterfinals matchup that he was very worried about playing Alireza. He's not feeling himself. You know, Alireza is the kind of opponent who's not going to let go of any chance. We saw that in game one. He got one opportunity to sacrifice his knight. He went for it.
I have to say, sometimes when Magnus says stuff like that, it's kind of like the smart... You ever remember school? Remember when the smartest kid in class would say, oh, I didn't even study for the test and get the best grade? Shut up. All right? Like, seriously. I mean, oh, I don't like to play Alireza. I just beat him in the finals like 4 times in a row. I mean, like, look, we get it. Like, Magnus has to be sick or he has to be off form, right? But when he's at his best, he's the man to beat. If I can have an analysis board, please, I would like to pull up how difficult it was in that last position to push forward. Tanya, how about this? In this position, the way white gets the advantage is not to attack the knight, it's to trade it.
Oh, wow.
And the idea is that this is now very challenging for black to play, because if he goes for the same concept, there's rook to c5, very positional, very Lazovic-esque, Lazov-esque, or however you would say it. That's the way you were supposed to play, which is weird because it was the target the entire time. How do you just go and trade it off and just slowly advance on the queen side? Instead, we have complete chaos, which is normal when we have Magnus Alireza.
It's what we want. But that was a beautiful idea that you pointed out, just playing against black, getting free with the central break. But there's a central break that Alireza does go for. D5. Again, this bishop on F3. Keep an eye. Watch out for that bishop. It's about to get really strong in the position. I'm expecting a bunch of trades on that D5 square. You take everything?
Yeah, what do? You take once? I mean, you have to take. Maybe you don't have to take. But you likely have to take this pawn with black. Do you take it once with the pawn, once with the knight? What do you do?
I'm expecting all the trades to happen and the white bishop to land on d5. Now, for Magnus, the queen and the rook are nicely set up on the 7th rank, just making sure everything's defended. He's trying to think perhaps if there's a way to throw in a curveball here. You know, that e-pawn that's just moved one step forward. Can he sever the connection between the bishop and the pawn by going e4? An in-between move.
Could be. Could be. And honestly, when he plays Alireza, this is a thought. This is really a thought that goes through his head, like, let's complicate it. Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's take a little bit of risk. Of course, he can just take the pawn on d5 and suffer, but Magnus is at a point in his career where he's like, could this be a more fun position to play? It's not about minimizing risk. It's not about being hyper practical. How are we feeling today? How's the mental processing? Do we take some risk in this position or not? Having said all that, we might sit here for a minute and he just trades everything in the middle of the board. And there it is.
It is, you know, Liquid under pressure, going solid here with his approach right now. You go e4, you would have ended up with a weakness on that c6 square. He's not allowing any of that. Going to see a bunch of trades at the center of the board. And there the bishop lands unchallenged right now. Looking at b7, looking at f7. The a-pawn about to push up the board as well. It just feels like Alireza's on the right side of the equality in this one.
Absolutely. Can I just say, Liquid under pressure and then solid? Like,
did that make sense?
That was like,
thank you.
You are spitting fire. Firouzja, if I may. That was
wrong.
Best caster in the world. I'm saying it right now. That was amazing. Anyway, this is not the best position in the world. This is a little bit of a nap time position. Magnus's pawn's not too happy in the middle there, but this is not the first rook end game we've seen today or in this tournament that even a pawn advantage, you look like you could just go and take some of the pawns. It's unlikely to be a decisive result. The amount of time it's going to take white to take some pawns is the same amount of time it's going to take black to take some pawns, and likely to trade off completely.
Yeah, and suddenly Magnus's rooks are beautifully placed in this endgame as well, right? You're eyeing the 4th rank to hit 2 pawns. You're eyeing the 2nd rank for activity as well if you're Magnus. You've got a worse pawn structure, but enough piece activity here. The rooks beautifully positioned for Magnus. Alireza coming in with an attack. That pawn cannot be defended. Let's just highlight that.
For sure. And then the next pawn probably might as well not be defended. Here, black can play rook into d2. Like rook on the 2nd rank of the opponent. Just ignore the threat. And the idea would be you lose the center pawn, and then after you take on b2, you give away the 2nd e-pawn. Well, we're not going to get the 2nd e-pawn getting taken, but we are going to get the first one. And now I'm curious, wow, Magnus doesn't even infiltrate at all. This is fascinating, dominates the open files. Look at that.
He's going to do a double on that 2nd rank.
Yep.
You know, the first rook will land and then the 2nd rook will land. He's looking at piece activity just at its absolute maximum, tying down the white rook on f1 to defend the king side. Magnus Carlsen, rook d2, rook c2 coming in. Alireza Firouzja, he's got one move to set up counter ideas of his own.
Alireza might just push the F and G pawns, just activate the space around his own king.
Playing with fire.
Yeah, but
That's
then...
a dangerous game, Levy. Rook d2, rook coming in.
Yeah, rook d2, rook c2 looks like a problem. I don't think his attack is actually fast enough. This is nasty business by Mac. You know what you might have to play here with white? Rook b5, rook b3, rook f3. Like, try to defend that way. Do a little snake. like we used to play on the phone. We're too old. It's like nobody, no kids watching this have played that.
I've spent a lot of hours in that game, got to a very high level as well, as we're going to enjoy some high-level rook-pawn endgame in this one. And I will point out what Magnus has set up against the move that you just suggested. If Alireza plants his rook on the b file, notice how the central pawn and the side a pawn are undefended. Magnus will then slide up his d rook all the way along to the 4th rank, winning one of the 2 pawns. And you just called that out, Levy. Rook to b5. On the board, This is the move that we were hinting at.
Best casters in the world. Look at that. Look at that. Predicting both moves. All right, what's the next one? What's the next one? Do we defend the center pawn? Do we chuck the pawn on the left side? He saves that pawn. He gives away the center pawn. And now the rook is free. This is still very dynamic. I mean, these endgames are very tricky.
5 versus 5. The black king will step up just to free up any checking on the 7th rank currently. And then look at infiltrating on the 2nd rank if he's allowed to do so. Magnus Carlsen, 5.5 minutes, about 2 minutes ahead on the clock right now.
That's standard. That's Alireza playing chess ever.
Okay, Levy, we often talk about the Magnus touch in endgames, right? It's just always about how he finds ways to squeeze water out of stone and all those cliches that we use. And he does it time and time again. Does this endgame have enough juice in it? Can Magnus look for something here?
Well, what's really funny is that you look at a position like this and you go, would Magnus be able to win this with either color? With white, you would say, oh, his king side pawns are all, look at a little triangle, and he pushed them forward, and black's pawn next to his king on the left side, e6. That's a weakness, right? That's what we would say. But Magnus is playing black, so we're going to say, oh, that pawn's like a dynamic element in the position. He's actually going to push that pawn and use it as a shield for his king, and then maybe weaken the white structure a little bit. Basically, any endgame in the hands of this guy is a problem for the opponent. And I don't like where this is going, Tanya. Like, 2 minutes 40, I said the only way Firouzja is going to make his chances in this match lower is that time.
It's the time that haunted him in their EWC final at Riyadh as well, and currently struggling on the clock. The position absolutely in balance. A player of Alireza's caliber should draw this every single time, and he needs to do this. You don't lose this against Magnus in a semi-final.
And in Norway Chess this year, he might have even won it. Like, really, Magnus did not have the best tournament performance there, but this is a very different story. He has double the time of his opponent, keeping all the possibilities on the board. Hikaru likes to say, you have to give the opponent a lot of options. And Alireza has too many options right now.
Well, first question for him is, what are the options with the rook? He goes with the other one, gives a check. There's a beautiful square on b6 that you could land on, plant your rook there, but that just means some undefended pawns on the queen side that you have to take care of eventually. Rook to b6. Is Magnus going to start hunting that a pawn? He does. Is it time to get the b pawn into the game? Whoa, Alireza not looking happy in this position.
No.
You've got the better pawn structure. It's a rook pawn endgame. Why?
No. He has to chuck a pawn. He's chucking the pawn, and he's going to go rook to e3.
That was a checkmate. There was a checkmate in that position. We've got to show that why that pawn could not have been defended. A beautiful line. Magnus had set this up. Watch and enjoy this. If you went b4 in this position, it's game over. Look at that bar shoot down. Rook check, rook checkmate.
I mean, just water. That's crazy. How do you do?
How do you spot
magic?
This? How does this happen in a rook and pawn endgame?
Well, it's magic, M-A-G, and it's fire, right? That's really what we're looking at. I didn't know. I was looking at it like, what am I missing? And there you go. Now, somehow Alireza still makes it here, but he's got 1 minute and 40. Now, will Magnus go for king and rook versus king and rook flag? That'll be really funny, because that could happen.
Wow. Magnus Carlsen is about 2.5 minutes up on the clock right now. He first makes sure that the 2 versus 3 are taken care on that right side. The rook looking at b2. I will say one thing, Levy. If the b and the a pawn go off the board, that would be handshakes.
Even now, right? Because we could have a repetition right here.
We could. The king could slide over, hit the rook. The rook goes back where it came from. The king comes back. A back and forth. Or is Magnus actually ambitious in this endgame? That would be quite the statement. Surely
not. 1 minute 32 is like 10 hours. You know, we talk about like dog years, like 1 and 7. Oh, and maybe. I was going to say, Alireza, this is oceans of time, but Magnus is investing in his outside pawn.
He is. He's placing all his bets on that pawn right now, because g5 is about to come under attack as well. If you're Alireza Firouzja, he first gives a check. Is Magnus going to step far away? He does.
Oh, Tanya, this is bad. This is very bad. This is vintage Magnus winning an endgame with the opponent under time pressure.
If Magnus wins this, I would have seen everything. And then I'd see another game and be shocked.
That just brings his king. But maybe it's not so easy to bring the king because you're always under threat somehow of losing your pawns.
So if you're Magnus Carlsen, you need the black king to assist that A pawn. You have to step it up the board on the C line, on the B line, and start marching up the board. Meanwhile, Alireza has to create counterplay where his majority lies.
And he's going to try to push. He's going to push and push, and then he's going to break through. That's the most important thing. He's going to try to get a pass pawn on the right side of the board. I don't think he has time to run his king all the way to the left. But Magnus is grimacing himself because he doesn't exactly have a solution in this position.
And Magnus is calculating what happens when he gets his king closer to that black rook. The problem is that his pawns on that right flank, both of them extremely weak and tender. And Magnus goes for that plan. He's going all in this endgame.
Maybe you can play pawn to f4 here.
But that's very committal.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I know, but...
And 1 minute. It's under 1 minute for Alireza. He's in bullet territory now.
He has to. I don't think... Yeah, okay, he plays a little passively, but that was very important here. Does Magnus just give that pawn?
How does Magnus do this? How are we in this rook and pawn endgame and this isn't a draw?
No, this is definitely a draw. He's going to take the pawn and then he's going to probably go for this f4 because then it's easy. At some point, he can even play it now. And he's going to give the rook for the pawn and it will likely be a draw.
And eventually, white will be forced to give up the rook for the lone remaining pawn that Magnus will have on that left flank. But Alireza needs to make sure he's in time on that race. He needs a passer of his own. He gives a check first. The king, if it moves forward, Alireza will keep checking. The third rank, the second rank, the first rank.
That's actually really funny. Anywhere the black king runs down into Alireza, yeah, he has to back up.
You got to play for a win. You got to go back. If you're Magnus Carlsen right now, the A pawn ready to push itself if it's allowed.
I think Alireza's in panic mode. He has 20 seconds on the clock.
20 seconds! There's no increment in this, and you can see it on him. He's about to get flagged in this position.
Yeah, he's gone f4, and he's got...
16!
Rook back.
Levy. I don't think Alireza saves this.
No, not with this amount of time. No, we're going to get into flagging territory here.
2.5 minutes for Magnus. How many times we've seen him do this? It's just unbelievable.
But this isn't even Magnus. I mean, I got to say, this is all Alireza. Right? Magnus looking for ways to complicate it and make the decisions challenging, but...
13 seconds.
I don't think... Is he going to flag him?
Alireza's mouse skills are from another planet. I don't know if it's going to be enough.
Is he going to... No, there's no way. You can't even flag here. They're both going to trade all their pieces, right?
Yeah, because the black rook will be forced to give itself as well, and Magnus is about to do it, and it ends in a draw with 7 seconds remaining for Alireza. What a game!
Whew. Intense stuff. I think we can all take a breath. Alireza 7 seconds remaining against 210, but he found the cleanest cut. Like, he found a way that there was really nothing Magnus could do. Only way to flag there is to keep the rook on the board and give checks, even allow the opponent to make a queen, but that would be extremely humiliating if you do all of that and then you lose. And Magnus, I don't think he's really in the business of doing that. I think he wants to play really high-level chess. If he had a flagging chance, maybe he would have taken it.